Coming up today, Election Day is almost here. Korea's political parties have just 2 more days to sway the minds of undecided voters ahead of Wednesday's poll. The South Korean government says future mass defections by North Koreans working in other countries cannot be ruled out, following the recent escape of 13 North Koreans to the south. First meeting in Hiroshima, the G7 universally condemns North Korea for its recent nuclear and missile tests. They call for a united response to the regime's provocations. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello to our viewers around the world. It's 6 a.m. on Monday, April 11th here in Seoul. Thank you ever so much for joining us. I'm Mark Broom. We are going to start with the latest on the 2016 general election, which is now just 2 days away. The leaders of Korea's main political parties are stepping up their campaigns to win the hearts of voters ahead of Wednesday's vote. Chairman of the ruling Saenuri party, Kim Moo-sung, will be stumping for his party's candidates in the southeastern cities of Ulsan and Busan, as well as Jeju Island on Monday. The Minju Party of Korea's interim leader, Kim Jong-in, is set to campaign in 9 different districts in the Seoul metropolitan area on the first day of the work week, asking the public to actively take part in the election. The co-chairman of the minor opposition People's Party, An Chol-soo, will be hitting the streets in Incheon, Ansan and Pyeongtaek, big urban areas on the outskirts of Seoul. Now, with the April 13th general election just 48 hours away now, the leaders of Korea's 3 main political parties had a busy weekend looking to sway the minds of undecided voters in the country's major metropolitan areas, including the capital of Seoul. Our Oh Soo-young traces their steps.
As the weekend before Wednesday's general election draws to a close, the candidates have just a few more chances to swing voters in their favour. The leaders of Korea's 3 biggest political parties are going all out to campaign in the country's most populous cities, considered key battlegrounds for the upcoming elections on April 13th. Kim Moo-sung, chairman of the ruling Saenuri party, began his Sunday in the capital, hitting multiple electoral districts in eastern Seoul. In his remarks, Kim said that a vote for his party is a vote for the resumption of major national projects.
Reform policies for the country's development during President Park's term can be completed.
Kim also took aim at the main opposition, the Minju Party of Korea, saying that it's an activist group that exists to disagree for the sake of disagreement. He also hit out at the party's former chairman Moon Jae-in for the Liberal Party's alleged alliance 4 years ago with the now-dissolved pro-North Korea United Progressive Party, which led to the election of a few UPP members to parliament. In the evening, Kim made his way to the southeast city of Ulsan for another campaign event. On the opposition side, the Minju Party interim leader Kim Jong-in began his day in northern Seoul and then worked his way over to the eastern districts in the capital. He also made a swing through major cities in Gyeonggi-do province before returning to eastern Seoul in the evening. The opposition leader blamed the ruling party for the current state of the economy and said his party offers better prospects for the country's citizens.
Change can only come if you vote for the Minju Party, which stands for the people.
Meanwhile, An Chol-soo, founder and co-leader of the minor opposition People's Party, reiterated that support for his party would transform the current 2-party system.
There is growing public sentiment that we can no longer sustain this 2-party system and that change is needed.
An visited his own electoral district in Nowon-gu, among other spots in Seoul, before moving on to major cities in the northern Gyeonggi-do province. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Now, staying with the election, and Korea's ruling and opposition parties have revealed how many National Assembly seats they expect to win in this year's general election. The ruling Saenuri party spokesman said Sunday that they expect to win around 145 seats, falling short of securing a majority in the 300-seat assembly. The campaign planning manager of the main opposition Minju Party of Korea said they might end up winning fewer than 100 seats. The strategic director of the minor opposition People's Party predicted that it would grab up to 40 seats. That's more than past opinion polls have suggested. The projections are all pretty different to what pollsters expect, with experts saying the two major parties are being quite conservative with their estimates, while the People's Party is being quite ambitious. Now, after the general election is done and dusted, the Korean government says it will step up its efforts to revitalise the flagging local economy. The finance ministry said Sunday that officials will announce a string of major policies by the end of this month. Now, these include job creation initiatives targeting young people and women, as well as a plan to build up to 5 more duty-free department stores in Seoul. A group of North Koreans working at a restaurant outside their country defected to South Korea late last week. It was the first ever such group defection. And Seoul's Unification Ministry believes it probably won't be the last. Connie Kim with the details.
There could be more group defections from North Korea, South Korea says, following the defection of 13 North Korean overseas restaurant workers to the south last week. South Korea announced last Friday the group had entered the country on Thursday with a yearning for a free society, as they had seen in South Korean media. An official from Seoul's Unification Ministry said Sunday the group defection could have a significant impact within North Korea, considering all of the people were from, quote, good backgrounds, meaning they came from the middle class. One defector reportedly said she had discovered true happiness living abroad and believed this was her last chance to escape. Another was quoted as saying she couldn't see any hope for the North Korean regime with the latest sanctions on Pyongyang and decided to escape to Seoul, which she said does have hope. North Korea operates some 130 restaurants overseas, and they reportedly sent over $10 million back to the North last year. But there is evidence the latest UN sanctions imposed on the North last month are restricting its cash flow on many fronts, including at the restaurants, which South Korea encouraged both its citizens and local residents to avoid. Income from overseas is important for North Korea as it gears up for its Workers' Party Congress next month, the first in 36 years. Ahead of the meeting, the North launched a 70-day campaign directing people around the nation and government agencies to collect money to fund the construction of a new district in the North Korean capital. That's also upped the pressure on North Korean restaurants in foreign countries to send cash to the regime, and the workers are reportedly starting to develop alternative plans for earning more money, including through illegal means. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Now, the foreign ministers of the Group of 7 industrialized nations, G7, have agreed to work as a united front against North Korea's continued provocations. According to Japan's Kyodo news agency, Japanese Foreign Minister Fumio Kishida told reporters after the first G7 session in Hiroshima that the ministers criticized Pyongyang's nuclear missile threats as well as its human rights abuses and demanded a concrete response from the regime. The Japanese minister also said the ministers shared opinions regarding China's territorial ambitions in the South China Sea and stressed the importance of maintaining order based on international principles. An elderly Korean victim of Japan's wartime sex slavery who lives in China has been flown back to Korea for medical treatment after she sustained serious injuries in an accident. 88-year-old Ha Sang-suk, who lives in the eastern city of Wuhan, broke a rib and her pelvis after falling down the stairs during a quarrel with a neighbor in February. She touched down in Korea on Sunday after a 2.5-hour flight and was admitted to Chungang University Hospital in Seoul. After a visit to see her in China, doctors at the hospital decided it would be best that she receive treatment in Korea for a lung infection she had developed. The Gender Equality Ministry will cover her medical expenses. When Ha was 17 during World War II, she was forced to serve in Japanese military brothels in China. Korea is launching its first ever Dokdo Education Week in an effort to boost public awareness about Korea's easternmost islets. During the 5-day campaign that starts on this Monday, the Education Ministry will offer special classes about Dokdo. and distribute more than 1.7 million copies of its new Dokdo education book to elementary, middle and high schools nationwide. The books will also be available to view on the websites of the Education Ministry and the Dokdo Institute of the Northeast Asian History Foundation. And to kick things off, the nation's education minister will visit an elementary school in the eastern coastal city of Pohang on Monday. This campaign is the latest response by Korea to Japan's continued false territorial claims to Dokdo. Most recently, Tokyo approved a set of updated high school textbooks that falsely claim Dokdo is Japanese territory. Now, in the United States, Bernie Sanders added Wyoming to his win column in the Democratic caucus over the weekend, helping him keep up the momentum ahead of major contests in the coming weeks. The Vermont senator bested his rival Hillary Clinton by 56 to 44%, and each candidate picked up 7 delegates. Sanders now has 1,068 delegates to Clinton's 1,756. Democratic candidates need 2,383 delegates to clinch the nomination. Next up, New York, the first of 6 populous eastern seaboard states with primaries that have a total of 753 delegates to offer. If Sanders wins in the Big Apple, it will deliver a decisive and potentially humiliating blow to his rival, as New York is Clinton's adopted home and she served as senator there for 8 years. The attackers who bombed the Brussels airport and subway station last month had initially planned a second attack on France, but had to abruptly change their plans. The Belgian prosecutor's office said in a statement on Sunday that the terrorists were surprised by the speed of the ongoing investigations into the Paris attacks that killed 130 people in November of last year. Investigators have found close links between the Brussels attack group and the group that carried out the horrific attacks in Paris. The Belgian prosecutor's office also said it had detained 4 men over the weekend and charged them with terrorist murders. Among them is 31-year-old Mohamed Abrini, who admitted to being the so-called man in the hat, spotted in CCTV footage alongside the 2 suicide bombers that blew themselves up at the Brussels airport. Police in India say a criminal investigation has begun into an unauthorized fireworks display at a Hindu temple that left more than 100 people dead. A faulty firework during the display fell onto the remaining stockpile, causing a huge explosion. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and other Indian officials have travelled to the temple in Kerala to visit the injured and pray for the victims. Police said the bodies would have to be identified using DNA testing, as many were charred beyond recognition. The fireworks were stored for Hindu New Year festivities on Thursday, but permission for the celebration had been denied due to safety concerns and residents' complaints. Now, virtual reality gadgets are the latest craze in the tech industry, but developers are now facing a new problem, namely that virtual reality devices can induce motion sickness. For more on the industry's latest stumbling block, Kim Mil-gyun reports.
Virtual reality is a computer technology that replicates a 3-dimensional world and simulates the user's physical presence, allowing the user to interact with the computer system. Recently, tech giants from all over the world are creating better products to provide the best virtual reality experience.
With the development of technology, virtual reality gadgets can now be manufactured at a cheaper cost, thus leading to an abrupt expansion in the industry.
But there is still room for improvement. Nearly 2/3 of participants in a study at the University of Wisconsin-Madison became nauseous while watching motion-intense 3D videos through a VR headset. Motion sickness is a product of mismatched sensory information. A classic example is reading in a car. Many people are unable to read in a car because if you have a book in front of you, your visual system says you're sitting still since the book is not moving, but the car continues to accelerate, which causes the reader to feel nauseous. Experts say right now there is no clear solution to the causal relationship between virtual reality and motion sickness. They advise users to keep track of time when using VR headsets to prevent uncomfortable symptoms. Kim Mo-gyun, Arirang News.
Well, that's all we have for now on this Monday morning here in Seoul, South Korea. I'm Mark Broom. Thank you as always for tuning in. For more of the latest, don't forget to check out the website arirang.com/news, and also do download our smartphone application. Just search for Arirang TV in your usual app store. We'll be back throughout the day with more newscasts. So until then, goodbye.